Hello and welcome to Movie Recap. Today I am going to recap American comedy horror film, Teeth. As the film begins, a family sits in the sunlight, relaxing in the warm sun. Bill and his new wife Kim are watching their children, Brad and Dawn, as they swim in a children's pool. Bill tells his son Brad not to bother his step-siblings, but the boy is excited, screaming that they are not brother and sister. As the step-siblings play in the water, Brad shows Dawn his little thing and wants her to show hers. Suddenly, the parents hear Brad scream, and as they rush to him, they see a cut on his finger. The scene then shifts to several years later, and Dawn is now a teenager. She is a spokesperson for a Christian abstinence group called The Promise. The organization urges young boys and girls to remain chaste until they find someone they want to spend their lives with. In a speech, she has her sights set on a guy named Toby. After the speech, Dawn meets her friends Alicia and Phil, and then they introduce her to Toby, and the two seem instantly attracted to each other. When Dawn returns home, we see her mother's health deteriorating, and her father takes care of her. Later, as she brushes her teeth in the bathroom, someone approaches her from behind. It turns out to be her brother, Brad. The next morning, Dawn enters her school, where she is bullied by others for being an advocate for abstinence. A boy named Ryan, who likes her, tries to approach her but is immediately blocked by one of the bullies. In a later class, the students learn about the reproductive system, but as the school is conservative, the book covers the female private parts. Ryan asks the teacher why studying female parts is taboo, but male ones are not. Dawn raises her hand to answer that women are different because they inherently have a sense of modesty. Hearing this, the whole class starts to laugh at her, but Toby stands up to support her, saying he agrees with her statement. After school, Dawn and her friends go to the theater but find that the movie they want to see is R-rated. Thus, they end up watching a children's film. As their friends are making out, Dawn and Toby continue to stare awkwardly at each other. Then, the scene shifts to Brad, who is relaxing with his girlfriend Melanie. When Melanie asks about his injured finger, he tells her that Dawn bit it when they were younger. Later, Dawn and her friends visit a popular lake in their community. While the others swim, Dawn and Toby spend some time alone. They discuss their purity. Dawn says she is a virgin, and Toby claims he had intercourse a year ago and is still struggling with guilt. Dawn comforts him, saying he's stronger than ever because, even after those experiences, he can resist his temptations. That night, Dawn lies in bed, fantasizing about marrying Toby. Then she touches herself but quickly feels guilty and stops. The next morning, Dawn is late for school, but this time she doesn't notice Toby. Later, she calls him from the changing room, expressing her concerns about her attraction to him. Toby also expresses his love for her. Dawn suggests they stop hanging out to keep their minds pure and not succumb to temptation. At home, Dawn accidentally overhears Brad and Melanie arguing. After Melanie leaves, Dawn tries to talk to her brother, but Brad claims that all her abstinence is a sham and she's always doing it to save for him. Then he urges his stepsister to get close to him, which disgusts Dawn and leads her to angrily leave, disturbed by this. She calls Toby and invites him to the lake. Then, they both admit that they've been imagining each other undressing. The two jump into the lake and start kissing, but Dawn asks him not to go further, reminding him of their purity. They go to a nearby cave and wrap themselves in a blanket. They start kissing again, but Dawn feels uncomfortable and tries to convince him to leave. Toby is unhappy with Dawn's response and becomes very aggressive. Then he accidentally shoves Dawn's head into a rock, knocking her down. As a result, while Dawn is unconscious, Toby tries to force himself on her. But he suddenly screams in pain. Dawn is confused by everything that's happened and finds blood on her hand. Toby notices his injury on the ground and starts crying, then screams as he leaves the place. Dawn sits in shock, dealing with what just happened that night. Dawn remembers Toby and how he could have been her husband, replaying his scream in her mind. She becomes furious, tearing down the wedding poster on the wall. The next day, she is invited to speak again at the Promise meeting. However, Dawn is so anxious that she only mumbles a few strange words. Afterward, Ryan approaches her, asking if she's okay, then drives her home and asks her on a date. But she refuses and walks away. After a while, Ryan feels stupid and goes back home. However, he encounters Brad, who punches him hard and warns him to stay away from Dawn. Dawn is still unsettled by the attack, and she decides to return to the cave to deal with her trauma. But when she sees a small crab crawling on Toby's severed part, she screams in fright. Dawn thinks she's now an impure woman, so she throws her purity ring off a cliff. Once home, she carefully removes the stickers from the anatomy textbook. When Dawn first sees the detailed illustration of a female part, she's taken aback. After some research online, she concludes that she has teeth down there. This is a folk legend, telling of a woman who has teeth down there. If she has intercourse with a man, it could result in harm, emasculation, or death for the man involved. The next day, Dawn goes to see a gynecologist, wanting to know what's wrong with her. She tells the doctor that she wants to be examined to make sure nothing abnormal is happening with her body. The doctor assures her that he recognizes this is a womanly concern and will not make any judgments about her private life. When he realizes that Dawn has never seen a gynecologist before, he takes advantage of her and molests her under the pretense of doing a test. He tells her to breathe through the pain, and then something suddenly grabs him. He twists and turns her around, trying to pull his hand free. When he finally lets go, Dawn notices his fingers are severed. Dawn screams in fear, and they both are horrified by what just happened. On her way back, Dawn encounters a police officer driving Toby's car, and he orders her to pull her bicycle over. She then decides to return to the lake to see if anything strange has happened. When she arrives, Dawn finds that the police are carrying Toby's body up. Back at home, Dawn's sick mother Kim suddenly collapses on the floor. Unfortunately, her misogynist stepbrother Brad and his girlfriend ignore her, continuing their intercourse while she's lying on the floor. Later, when Dawn discovers her mother in this condition, she immediately takes her to the hospital. Afterward, Dawn wakes up in the hospital after experiencing a nightmare, and her father asks her to go home to rest. When she returns home, she finds Brad and his girlfriend arguing again. Annoyed, she goes to Ryan's house and tells him that she must turn herself into the police. Dawn tells him that she almost killed 2 people because she has teeth down there. However, Ryan doesn't understand what she's trying to say and thinks Dawn is very worried. He comforts her and gives her some pills, implying they will help her relax. In the next scene, Dawn is taking a bath, while Ryan decorates the room with candles and plays soothing music. After a while, Dawn comes out looking for her clothes, saying she plans to go to the police station. On the other hand, Ryan tells her that the pills might make her dizzy, so she should go tomorrow. Dawn pours alcohol on herself, leans on Ryan, and Ryan assures her that he'll always be there for her. Then he climbs on top of her, trying to make the situation more enjoyable. At this point, Dawn agrees too, and they eventually have intercourse without her teeth getting in the way. Meanwhile, doctors find a rare structure inside Toby's body. They don't know what it is, as it looks like shark or eel teeth, but tests confirm it belongs to a human. Elsewhere, the gynecologist is getting a surgery to reattach his fingers to his hand. When the doctor asks how his fingers were severed, he refuses to reveal anything. The next morning, Ryan and Dawn are communicating again. Just then, Ryan receives a call from a friend, and he boastfully brags that he bet with his friend whether he could score with Dawn. This enrages Dawn, and Ryan mocks her, claiming he never thought it was sacred. Suddenly, her teeth bite off Ryan's hands, and as Ryan cries for his mother, Dawn walks out. Dawn subsequently goes to the hospital, discovering that her mother has died at home. Bill scolds Brad for basically killing his wife, but in response, Brad argues that he should never have married her in the first place, given his feelings for Dawn. He angrily accuses Bill of making him treat her as a sister. As their disagreement escalates, Brad sets his dog on his father, but Bill replies that Dawn loves him too, causing Brad to stop. Later, Bill and Melanie go to the hospital, and Melanie apologizes to Dawn about her mother. She says they heard her mother's screams, but Brad told her they shouldn't worry because she often does that. Dawn is furious and goes home seeking revenge. She dresses up and walks into Brad's room, trying to seduce him, surprising Brad. He questions why she suddenly wants to do this, but Dawn taunts him, saying he is scared. The two then have intercourse, with Brad claiming they both knew this would eventually happen. Midway through the act, Brad recalls his younger days when his finger was bitten by Dawn. It wasn't her mouth that bit him as he was molesting her. Brad realizes this, and Dawn's teeth down there bite off his genitalia, and she drops it on the floor. He then orders his dog to attack Dawn, but the dog starts eating his genitalia. Seconds later, Dawn leaves the room, and Brad screams in pain, begging her to stay. After that, Dawn jumps on her bicycle and rides away from her hometown, heading out of town for a new life. Her bike's tire punctures on the road, so she starts hitchhiking to avoid the police. Soon, an old man appears, volunteering to give her a ride on the road. Dawn briefly dozes off. When she wakes up, she finds the old man has locked the doors. He creepily licks his lips, hinting at pleasing him in exchange for a ride. Dawn initially hesitates and then looks at the camera and the old man with a wicked smile. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.